The Black Death remains one of the most devastating pandemics in human history. It ravaged Europe, Asia, and parts of Africa in the mid-14th century. Millions perished, leaving an indelible mark on the world. Its effects were so profound that it reshaped societies, economies, and even our understanding of disease. The Black Death, also known as the Great Plague, was brutal and relentless. It was characterized by gruesome symptoms, including painful swollen lymph nodes, fever, chills, and vomiting. Death often followed within days of the first symptoms. The sheer scale of death was staggering, with some estimates suggesting it wiped out a third of Europe's population. The Black Death instilled terror and despair wherever it spread. People were bewildered by the swiftness and ferocity of the disease. Communities were decimated. Mass graves became commonplace as towns and cities struggled to cope with the sheer number of dead. The Black Death was not just a medieval tragedy, it stands as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of human populations to infectious diseases. Its legacy continues to shape our world today. The mid-14th century was a time of significant upheaval in Europe. A combination of factors created the perfect conditions for the Black Death to take hold and spread with devastating speed. Europe was experiencing a period of overpopulation. Resources were already stretched thin and sanitation was poor, particularly in urban centers. This overcrowding created an ideal environment for diseases to flourish. Adding to these woes, a series of famines had weakened the population. Malnutrition made people more susceptible to illness and less able to fight off infection. The Little Ice Age, a period of colder climate, also played a role. The colder temperatures impacted agricultural yields, further exacerbating famine and weakening the population's resilience. For centuries, the cause of the Black Death remained a mystery. It wasn't until the late 19th century that scientists identified the culprit, a bacterium known as Yersinia pestis. This discovery revolutionized our understanding of the plague and paved the way for effective treatments. Yersinia pestis is primarily a rodent disease spread by fleas. When an infected flea bites a human, the bacteria enter the bloodstream and multiply rapidly. This leads to the characteristic symptoms of plague, including swollen lymph nodes, fever, and chills. There are three main forms of plague: bubonic, septicemic, and pneumonic. Bubonic plague, the most common form, affects the lymph nodes. Septicemic plague infects the blood, while pneumonic plague affects the lungs and can be spread through the air. The discovery of Yersinia pestis was a major breakthrough in our understanding of the Black Death. It allowed us to develop antibiotics that are effective in treating the plague, preventing future outbreaks from reaching the catastrophic scale of the 14th century. While Yersinia pestis is the bacterium responsible for the plague, fleas and rats played a crucial role in its rapid and widespread transmission during the Black Death. Fleas, particularly the oriental rat flea, act as the primary vectors of the plague. These tiny insects thrive in the fur of rodents, particularly black rats, which were prevalent in medieval Europe. When an infected flea feeds on a rat, it ingests Yersinia pestis. The bacteria multiply inside the flea, eventually blocking its digestive system. This blockage causes the flea to regurgitate infected blood into its next host when it attempts to feed. Rats carrying infected fleas became the primary carriers of the plague. They lived in close proximity to humans, infesting homes, ships, and granaries. This proximity facilitated the transmission of the plague from rats to humans. The movement of people and goods along trade routes contributed significantly to the spread of the plague. Ships infested with rats and fleas inadvertently carried the Black Death from port to port, accelerating its spread across continents.